This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder of Mosley Wealth Management.
Our mission at Mosley Wealth Management is to help people make sure they never run out of income the rest of their life and they pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes.
Since 1995, Tom Mosley and his team have been creating comprehensive, custom financial plans to help you preserve what you've earned and pursue what you've envisioned.
In retirement, a lot of people have built a great lump sum. We call that your lumber yard. But you need a blueprint to put that lumber yard into a plan that you can build a retirement house to live in.
What's on your mind this week, Southern California? The stock market, taxes, inflation, income, Social Security, how to ease into the life of your dreams? Let's discover conservative financial strategies starting right now. This is your Right on the Money Radio Hour with Tom Mosley.
And a very happy weekend to you. You are listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management based right here in Southern California, and I'm your host, Kristin Oakley. Each week, we are committed to providing you with retirement planning solutions. We've got another great show for you this weekend. We're going to be talking all about the accounts you need to set up and organize for your retirement. We've got an extensive list here, and our hope is to be able to shed some light on some things that maybe you've heard of before, but maybe there's going to be some new things and things that you're going to need to update and pay attention to. There's no shortage of things to talk about, right, Tom?
Absolutely. You know, every time when we start this show, I feel like a bucket that's just about to flow over.
Yes.
And I will tell you this, every time when we get done with the show, and you can verify this, Kristin, we don't cover half the notes we have because there's so much stuff to talk about, and we do really make an effort on this show every week to educate you. I know a lot of shows are like infomercials where they're saying, call me, every 60 seconds or 45 seconds. And their whole show is just built on call me, and they don't pass out. And I've had people tell us this when they came in to our meetings in our conference rooms at our offices, and they say, we like your show because you educate, you teach something. The other people tend to tease something. And there are a lot of good people out there, but there are a lot of you who like to do it yourself. And we're okay with that. You can blow it up and then we can help you fix it. But we do like to educate people so they know what's going on. We educate our clients so they know what's going on. So back to your original little question, okay? I feel like a bucket ready to overflow every single show we do.
Yes, with so much goodness. And I think that's one of the reasons that we were immediately drawn to each other too, Tom, is just our passion for financial education. It's so important to be educated, to be empowered so that you can make the best decisions possible with your hard-earned money. And so today, that's our goal as well. And the whole premise of today's show is that a successful retirement requires that you set up and organize a variety of different accounts. And the interesting thing is each account serves a different purpose at different times throughout your retirement journey, but it's imperative that you have an overall retirement plan with a strategy that's customized to meet what your specific dreams and goals are for your retirement. And that's going to look different for every single person who's listening to this show. It's really like building your dream house, right, Tom?
Absolutely. And that's, when we put things together, often we ask people, what's your retirement plan? And they'll hand us a 401k statement or an IRA statement. And we say, even that's called what? An individual retirement account, a 401k account. And that's many times I liken it to the different rooms of the house. You need all of those things.
Right.
You need a Medi-Care account. You need other kinds of accounts, a brokerage account, a checking account. But a plan is like the house, and the accounts are like the individual rooms of the house. So what you have to do is, that's where we come in many times with people, is they've done a good job of building their accounts, and they've found out about the different accounts, but they don't know how to weave that thread together through the different rooms and build that all into an account. We call that a retirement blueprint. And that's what we do offer for people who call in and they get on our schedule. Remember, we've got 7 all-star advisors, and they meet with people in one of our 5 offices all over Southern California, or on Zoom if we need to for the first time or two. And we start from scratch. We call it a blank piece of paper and we build a retirement blueprint. Now, what's that blueprint? It takes all of the accounts that you've put together that we're going to talk about on today's show. It takes all of those accounts and weaves those together into one house that you can live in. And we put together a retirement blueprint. It's a plan that you can live with the rest of your life. And we put the plan in your hand so that you can understand it.
And we'll give you plenty of opportunities and ways to connect so that you can get your complimentary retirement blueprint throughout today's show. But just like a house needs a blueprint, so does your retirement. So we're going to go through and talk about some of these different important accounts that you need to have set up and need to be organized. And I know, Tom, that we're going to spend some more time on some and maybe not as much time on some other ones. And really, the best thing someone can do is come in and sit down with one of your all-star advisors to see what accounts they have, what accounts might be missing from that blueprint, and how these are all going to fit together.
Some of these you're going to have, some of these you don't need. Some of these you need and you don't have yet. So don't go to sleep on us if we're talking about a plan that you don't have. Stay with us, because you may listen and hear about a plan and say, I need to investigate that. And that's where we can come in to help.
Yes, for sure. And these are in order too, kind of as you think about moving through your retirement. So first up on our list, we have to talk about workplace retirement plans. What are those? That would be your 401k, or maybe you have a 403b, or a 457, or a TSP. So let's talk about these accounts.
Those are plans that are offered by your employer. The reason they all start with a 4, it was the 4th section of the bill that Congress passed back in the 70s that started all of these 401ks. Used to, people had pensions or they had nothing. And so they started retirement plans. And in that 4th section, they talked about the employer-related plans. Now, the 401k is the 800-pound gorilla in this industry as far as a retirement account. The 401k is a tax-advantaged account. Most of you know that you put money into a 401k and you do not pay the tax when it goes into the 401k. That's a whippy. That's a great thing, because if you're making a lot of money, it can reduce your tax. So the 401k, it's sponsored by the employer. You don't pay tax when it goes in. Guess what? You don't pay tax as it grows. That is a super thing. But here's the negative. When you're in retirement and you've put in that seed and it's grown into this gigantic oak tree, the problem is now you've got to pay tax on the oak tree rather than the seed.
Right.
And so it creates many times a tax burden, but nonetheless, I think it is the most predominant thing you need to use if you have one available. Here's why. We are human beings and we are creatures of habit. And if you start contributing to your 401k, I actually get that question sometimes, Kristin, should I contribute to my 401k? And sometimes I get the question, should I contribute to my 401k? They're willing to match it by 4%.
The answer is yes. Take the free money. Don't leave that money on the table.
That's right, because it's absolutely free money. Let's just talk about dollars. If I put in $4 and they're going to match, and that's 4%, they're going to match it with another $4. I have $8. I mean, my 3-year-old, 4-year-old granddaughter will make that trade. She'll take 2 for 1. So some people come in, they say, should I get involved in my 401k? Well, we'll talk about some positives. Some positives are, number one, it's automated. So it just starts coming out of your paycheck. It doesn't have to go into your checking account and then you write a check for it or you set up an automatic withdrawal. It goes automatically into the 401k. Number two, most of the time it's matched. Okay. That's the good thing, because if they're going to match 4 for 4, then take advantage of it, at least that amount. And so you go in there. Number 3, it's there for growth. Almost, here's a news flash. Almost all 401ks are there and they're built in mind with that 25, 30, 35, maybe even 45 or 50-year-old that's still in the accumulation phase. So almost everything in that 401k that you have as an option to invest in, almost everything in that 401k has a growth mindset to it. Okay. There's not a lot of safety there. Now, some of the negatives maybe about the 401k. Some of the negatives might be, well, I'm locked into maybe 20 different investments and I'd like to broaden my investment scope. Some of the negatives might be if you're making a lot of money and you're under 50 years of age, you can only put $23,000 a year into one. And you say, well, I really want to concentrate on retirement. I want to put a little bit more on there. Those are all the adults out there who have no children, Kristin.
Right.
Because, when you're in your 40s and 50s and you have children, you're probably thinking, boy, I'd love to put $23,000 away. When you reach 50, you get what's called a catch-up provision, and you can actually put $30,500 into 401ks, 403bs, and those kind of things. Now, the TSPs and the 457s, those have different rules to them, so you'll have to check those out. But some people say, well, I need to put more money than just that amount. So that's okay. That might be one of the drawbacks. And then some people are getting to retirement and they're saying, they promised me that I would be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. And now I've got to take all this money out from the oak tree, from the seed I planted. And now I've got a massive tax burden in retirement. So that's one of the things you need to be careful about what you're doing in your 401k. Make sure you're putting the right amount. It's a no-brainer to be in the 401k and to take advantage of the match because you're getting free money. Okay. So, but other than that, then you need to make some financial decisions. And we're going to come back for a second section, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens if you leave a company or you get laid off at a company or something like that. And then we'll go on to some other accounts, but you really need some focus on that 401k. Now, what we offer, we don't make any money off of your 401k at your work, but what we offer through our advisors is 401k coaching. And what we do with people who are our clients, they've decided to become our clients, we have them bring in all of the options that are available to them within their 401k, and we can help you pick. Now, when I do that for my clients, I pretty much say, okay, in a good time, this is where you need to be. In a bad time, this is where you need to be within that 401k. My question to you is, are you blind on that 401k? You really don't know what you're doing? I can help you. We can help you, but you've got to pick up the phone and call.
And that number to call is 888-930-5609. As Tom mentioned, not only can you receive your complimentary retirement blueprint from the team of Mosley Wealth Management, but they would be happy to walk you through your specific workplace retirement plan and provide that coaching for you. And this is for no cost, no charge, no obligation. It's simply an invitation to have a conversation to see how they can help and serve you. So we encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity. Don't go anywhere. We've got a lot more to cover on today's show. We'll be back right after this.
Is having $1 million enough to retire? For years, many have considered this to be the goal amount to have for retirement savings, $1 million. But that's the $1 million question. Is that enough for today's modern retiree? Are you sure you've saved enough for a 25 or 30-year retirement? Are you concerned about covering large expenses, including taxes and long-term care? If so, you're not alone. But there is a solution. With a comprehensive financial plan, you can take control of your finances to help you achieve your long-term goals. At Mosley Wealth Management, let us help you work towards peace of mind by implementing a complete retirement strategy. Call Tom Mosley and the team of Mosley Wealth Management right away to receive your complimentary, comprehensive written financial plan. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. For your own no-cost retirement blueprint, call Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management, 888-930-5609.
Welcome back. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley, and today Tom and I are discussing all the accounts you need to have set up and organized for your retirement. And of course, we spent a huge part of our last segment talking about your workplace retirement plan, whether you have a 401k, a 403b, a 457, a TSP. Also, Tom, we don't want to leave our self-employed folks out of the mix, right? I know you work with a lot of business owners. They might have a different type of account that they're putting money away for themselves. And of course, that'll bleed into our next point, which is individual retirement accounts. But specifically with workplace retirement plans, one of the changes that's happening is a lot of these companies, thanks to the Secure Act 1.0 and 2.0, we now have a lot more Roth options available inside of these accounts. So I know that one of the questions you're getting a lot from folks is, well, where do I put the money? Do I put it into the traditional part and get the tax break today? Or is it better to go ahead and pay the tax on the money and use the Roth option? So that's a huge decision for folks to be making.
It is. And the companies are adding a lot of Roth options within the 401k. I have a 401k at my company, and the Roth option is something that I encourage all of my younger people to take, because what you do is, and wait a minute, by the way, all companies are going to have a Roth in their 401k. So it's not like they jumped off the cliff willingly. Okay.
Right.
They were pushed, and they're going to have that Roth option in there. So if you don't have one now, you likely will have a Roth option in the very near future. Now, what's a Roth option? A Roth option is simply you do pay the tax now.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the beauty of the Roth option. And the reason I encourage all of my younger people to get involved in the Roth option, because you do pay the tax now, but as that grows, that seed, like we talked about in the first segment, grows into the oak tree, you don't pay tax on the oak tree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You don't pay tax when it comes out, is what we're saying. And to date, there is no requirement like with a regular 401k or a regular IRA. At 73 is the age right now. You have to start taking required minimum distributions out of those qualified accounts that have not been taxed,
Mm-hmm.
because the government needs your tax dollars. Okay.
Right.
With the Roth, they've already got your tax dollars. So there's no requirement for you to take the money out at 73. You can actually leave that in there your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tax-free as it grows, not as it goes in. You're taxed as you go in. It's tax-free as it grows. It's tax-free when you leave it to your spouse. It's tax-free when you leave it to your children,
Mm-hmm.
and it's tax-free when they take it out, and you're never taxed on it again. That's what I love about that Roth option. So if you've been notified in those meetings that you go to sleep on, or you don't even attend, or those sheets that they pass out that you just throw away, that there's a Roth option on your 401k, you might need to look it up and decide what's going on. Do they match?
Mm-hmm.
Is it available? And if you need, that's one place, Kristin, where we're glad to look at we have some software that we
Mm-hmm.
use, but we're glad to look at the software that will help you determine if I do contribute to the Roth, what's that going to do to my taxes, because it's going to keep your taxes higher now
Mm-hmm.
rather than in the future.
Right.
And Kristin, do you think taxes are going to be higher now or in the future?
Oh gosh, I wish I could say that they're going to go down, but all signs are pointing elsewhere, right?
Well, up until an election, everybody says they're going to go down. And then after the election, everybody says, well, guess what? We're going to have to go. So you're right. I mean, and we do know that if no law is changed, that in 2026, just a little less than a year and a half from now, that the tax rates will go back up
Yep.
to the cuts that we had in 2017 with the Tax Cut and Jobs Act that we had in 2017. Those 2 to 4% breaks on the income tax brackets are going to go away, and
Yep.
they're going to go back up. So we do know taxes are lower now. So my encouragement to everybody that possibly can is get into the Roth,
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got the tax job done. Here's why. When you're sitting there with that 401k, and the average person in the average balance in 2022 for people that were 55 to 64, they have $208,000 in a 401k. Guess what? It's not all their money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you're in a Roth 401k, it's all your money. It's 100% your money.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing to point out, Tom, is that some folks might earn too much to contribute to a Roth IRA, but that doesn't mean you can't contribute to your Roth 401k. So that can just be a really valuable way to start that tax-free bucket, moving money from taxed always to taxed never, right? It's always a good thing.
That's right. Look at it this way, Kristin, and I've used these words on the show before. The regular 401k, when you start taking money out, it is forever taxed.
Mm-hmm.
The Roth 401k is never taxed.
Yep.
I know which one I want.
Yes.
I want the never taxed.
Absolutely. I think everyone listening would agree with you for sure. Well, another thing that we want to talk about is, we did a show a couple weeks ago, Tom, where we were talking about what if you retire early, and that could be by choice, but it could also be by force. And a lot of folks are leaving places of employment and they are leaving their workplace retirements behind. And I know there's been some recent news in Southern California that is going to affect a lot of folks in this area. So we need to talk about that as well.
Recently, Northrop Grumman announced that they're going to lay off 1,000 people. And that's terrible, because those are really good paying, well-paying jobs. I mean, those are great. Now, when you do get laid off, there's several things you can do. There are 4 things you can do. And the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, is always really, they're stressing that we need to stress that they're options, okay? Number 1, you can leave it there. I saw a statistic one time that about 30% of the people just leave that 401k where it is, and it's not managed. They don't watch it. They're surprised sometimes how much it's grown or how much it's gone down. So you can leave it where it is. If you get a new job, you can move it to a new 401k. You can do a rollover into a new 401k and keep one 401k account going. I had a client came to us one time who had 6 401ks, and we merged them all together. I jokingly was kidding him, and I said, Dave, I said, you can get a job, you just can't hold one, because he moved from job to job to job. So you can move it to a new one. That's the second thing. You can move it out to an individual retirement account. And the good news about that is it gives you more options than you generally have within the 401k. And the bad news is you don't have some legal protections from lawsuits and things like that you do have in the 401k. It's always positives and negatives about everything.
Right.
And the fourth thing is you can cash it out. You can actually cash out your 401k, but you're going to have taxes if it's a regular 401k, and you may have penalties depending on your age. So a lot of things you can do with that 401k if you are laid off. If you are laid off, you don't know what to do with it, man, that is somebody we can help you. You need to reach out to us, because we can help you know what to do, or at least give you advice and give you options so you can make the right decision and not make a mistake.
Absolutely. And I think that the important point for folks to understand is that when you have left that money behind, it's not working for you, and you might be paying higher fees than you realize. You have limited choices often of how you can invest that money, and you don't have control over it. So there's a lot of peace of mind that can come from doing these rollovers and making sure you're doing them in the right way, knowing where your money is, knowing how it's allocated. I mean, really, when you can take that money and roll it into a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, the world becomes your oyster, and you get to decide how you want that money to be invested.
Exactly. I think it should be rolled over in probably 80% of the cases, but there are some times where it is right. Like I recently had a business owner who thought he might get sued, and he had a lot of money in a 401k, and he was exiting the business. So he left it in the 401k just to make sure he wouldn't get sued. In the 401k, it's not open to lawsuit. In the IRA, in California, it could be open to lawsuit.
That's important to know for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let's talk a little bit about individual retirement accounts. I know we've touched on them throughout, but that's the next account we got to talk about in this discussion.
I call these the baby and the personal retirement accounts. The 401k is the employer, and you can do a lot of money in those, but the individual retirement account and the individual Roth, they operate the same way as a 401k, a regular 401k, a regular IRA. You don't pay tax on them when the money goes in. A Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, you do pay the tax on them. So it's exactly the taxable situation almost mirrors the 401k options that you have. And the difference, one big difference is in the IRAs, if you're under 50, you can put in $7,000 a year in almost all cases. There are, as you so appropriately bring up each time, there are some limitations on income earning. And if you're over 50, you can put $8,000. There's a catch-up $1,000 provision. So you can put less money in them, but they operate the same way. The regular IRA, you don't pay tax. It grows without tax. It comes out with full income tax. The Roth, you do pay tax, and it's never taxed again. So that's the major difference. And both of those are generally available to almost all people. Now, why would people want to do that? Exactly like I said when we talked about a couple minutes ago about moving over the 401k. With an IRA, you can choose your options.
Yes.
And there are generally a lot more options there. And the younger you are, the riskier you're going to want to be. When you get a little bit older, most people want to back down that risk level. And so it's really important. Hey, do you know your risk score? When we come back, I'm going to talk to you about 2 risk scores that you need to know, whether you have a 401k or an IRA or a Roth 401k. You need to know your risk score, and there's another risk score you need. But the biggest thing a lot of you need to do is just get some help. And we're here to help you. And the things we talk about on this show, we can help you personally with, but you've got to call us.
And that number to call is 888-930-5609. We know that you have questions. Maybe something we've just talked about has sparked some curiosity as you're thinking through these questions in your own life. You don't have to go it alone. The team of Mosley Wealth Management would love to be able to help and serve you. So to claim your complimentary retirement blueprint, simply call 888-930-5609. As Tom said, he's got a lot more to get into, so stay with us. We're just getting started. We'll be back right after this.
When it comes to taxes and retirement planning, it can feel like you're playing a game without knowing the rules. Tax laws are complex and they're constantly changing, so how can you be sure you're making the right decisions to minimize your tax burden and maximize your retirement savings? At Mosley Wealth Management, we can help you understand the tax implications of your retirement plan and work towards developing a strategy that works for you. Our experienced advisors stay up to date on the latest tax laws and can help you navigate the complexities of the tax code. We'll work with you to identify tax-efficient strategies that can potentially help you keep more of your hard-earned money in retirement. From Roth conversions to charitable giving, we can help you make informed decisions and implement strategies that aim to help minimize your taxes and protect your wealth. Don't let taxes catch you off guard in retirement. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management to see how we can help you develop a tax-efficient retirement plan that is tailored to your unique situation. Work with a team of experts who know the rules of the game and can help you work towards playing to win. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management for your complimentary retirement blueprint and tax efficiency analysis. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Get your retirement right on the money with Tom Mosley. Call 888-930-5609 for your no-cost appointment. 888-930-5609.
Welcome back, Southern California. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management, and I'm your host, Kristin Oakley. We are covering a lot of ground today, talking about the different accounts you need to have set up and organized for your retirement. And Tom, I know before the break, you mentioned you wanted folks to know about 2 different types of risk scores that they need to be aware of with their own investments. So can you explain that for them?
That's right. You can call them an internal risk score and an external risk score, or you can say it's your risk score and your portfolio's risk score, but you can actually get more accurate. I hear so many people say, Tom, the person I've been working with just talks about conservative, balanced, moderate growth or aggressive growth. What does that mean?
Right. It's almost like you get pigeonholed into one of those labels, if you will.
Exactly. And they're so, overall encompassing and generic. But what we do at our place is we let people take an evaluation. It's not a test. You can't fail it, but it's called Riskalyze. And it actually comes up with a risk score. Like this week I was working with a couple and their risk score was 32. That basically means that they feel like inside, because it's an inside risk score that you get from Riskalyze. Inside, the risk that I'm comfortable with is about 32% as risky as the market. Well, guess what? When we ran their portfolio, they were taking 79% of the risk of the market. They were happy because the market's going up. But what's going to happen when the market goes down? They're going to be pretty sad.
Right.
because they're taking too much risk. And your portfolio, you say, where'd you get the 79? Well, that's the other score. The other score is a score we get from a company called Morningstar, which is a neutral rating agency, and they run a risk rating on your portfolio. And they say this portfolio is 79% as risky as the market. Now, that was a real live situation of a couple that their risk level internally was 32, but their external portfolio risk was 79. They had a problem.
Right.
And we were able to help them fix it. The question I have is, how many of you are floating along and you're happy with your portfolio, but if something happens in the election, something happens in the next election or the next election, or something happens in the Middle East and the market has a downturn of 30 or 40 or 50%, are you still going to be happy that you were taking that much risk, or should you moderate it? Well, some of you are saying, I don't even know what my risk score is. That's what we mean in the difference between pretty much winging it in your retirement plan versus really having a retirement blueprint. And that's one of the things we really hone in on: your IRAs, on your Roth IRAs, and also your 401ks or your Roth 401ks. Remember, we do the coaching on those, but we actually manage our people's IRAs and Roth IRAs.
And, as you were talking about the risk scores, Tom, it hit me too that I think in that conversation, I know you walk people through this. It's not just talking about percentages, but it's putting a monetary amount to it. Doesn't that change the conversation when you say, okay, if you have X amount and you were to lose this much, how does that make you feel? That just hits differently.
That's part of that score that comes back from Morningstar. I'm glad you said that, because this couple had a potential loss of 33% of their investment, and they were right at $1.1 million. So they would lose 1/3 of their investment. And when they were saying, they were sort of, oh wow, that's pretty big. And I said, how would it feel if instead of $1.1 million, and I did the math in my head really quickly, and I knew that was about $365,000. I said, how would it feel if instead of 1.1, you had $735,000? Well, it really got their attention. So when you look at it and you say that risk score, if we have a downturn like we've had in the last 2 or 3, is going to result in a $365,000 monetary loss. Well, you got my attention now, Kristin.
Right. Yep. It just, like I said, it hits differently. It brings it home, and it just really stresses the importance of, this is your hard-earned money. This is what you've worked to save. It's the lump sum. But Tom, as we always say, it's not about the lump sum. It's about the income. And if you are starting with less to then try to pay yourself from, that can be a problem. So important to pay attention, know what your risk scores are, and make sure that those things are aligned. Because a lot of times, I know you see this day in, day out, folks come to you and they're actually misaligned. So I'm glad we were able to cover that. I know we've got to get to some medical accounts, but before we do, I know you also work with a lot of self-employed individuals, and we don't want to leave them out of the conversation when it comes to these IRAs and workplace retirement plans. So what do you want to say about that?
Well, you've got larger amounts of money can go if you're self-employed, if you own your own business and you don't have employees, or maybe you're structured with your S Corp or your C Corp. You're structured in such a way that many times we're able to set up a SEP IRA, SEP IRA. It actually stands for self-employed person. No, it doesn't. It stands for Simplified Employee Pension, but a lot of people call it a self-employed person because that's who it's built for. And those may be open to you, and you could literally put $50,000, $60,000 into one of those if you're a business owner. Reach out to us if you're not aware of those.
And again, that number to reach out to is 888-930-5609. Well, Tom, let's talk about some medical accounts. And of course, the first one on the list here is Medi-Care.
Medicare is the big baby. A lot of people understand it. It's a federal health program, and it's for people 65 years of age or older, or maybe some people who have some challenges and disabilities before that age. And I actually think it's pretty good. I really do. I think I'm on it, and I like it. Medicare, original Medicare is Part A and Part B. Part A pays for the hospital. Part B pays for the doctors. You actually have to pay for Part B in most cases. This year it's about $174.70. And a lot of people get that, and they get their little red, white, and blue Medicare card, and they think, bingo, I'm in the money. I've got my Medicare.
Yeah.
And the problem is when they then have a surgery, or then they go to the doctor, or they have some kind of bills, or they have a test, they realize Part A and Part B only covers 80% of everything. Okay. So if you can do the math, 100% of everything's what's got to be paid, and it only pays 80. So how do you cover that other 20%? Two major ways. There's Medicare Supplement. Medicare Supplement is also called Medi-Gap policy, where it covers the gap, the 20% gap, most of it. The specifics you'll have to read through. You have some little incidental copays and other things like that. But it almost operates, Kristin, like a PPO from the original health insurance that we had before 65, if you're trying to understand it, where with a supplement, you can go to any doctor, any pharmacy, any clinic, any hospital, anywhere in the continental United States, the 50 states of the United States, and you can be covered with your Medicare supplement. It's like the PPO. I always tell people that two things. If you travel a lot and you're in different parts of the United States, probably the supplement's going to work better for you. Right. And also, if you've ever been diagnosed with ologist, and people say, what do you mean ologist? I mean, if you've got a cardiologist, a rheumatologist, a neurologist, if you've got health issues, usually that Medicare supplement and the flexibility and freedom it gives you, I'm not making a recommendation, but I'm saying it's what you should consider. If you've got issues, that Medicare supplement's going to give you the flexibility to go different places and choose your own places where you go without a referral like you do with the other. Now, what's the other? That's Medicare Advantage. That's the one that JJ and Joe Namath and all of them want to promote in the fall every year, because it's open enrollment from October 15th to December 7th. That's Medicare Part C. And that basically operates like an HMO in most cases, although they do have some Medicare Advantage PPOs that are available. So you really need to check out what's available, because the Part C, the HMO leaning things, have a lot more restrictions. The PPOs that are Medicare Advantage have a lot higher deductibles in most cases, and a lot higher copays and some restrictions. So how do you check it out? What's best for you? When I'm teaching Social Security with Social Security seminars that we have all over Southern California, and tax seminars and all of the other seminars that we do that you can go to our website and find. When I'm teaching Social Security, I always tell people, look, your Social Security number is different, and when you should take your Social Security is different than anybody else's, different than Bob at the water cooler, different than Sally in the break room. It's different than anybody else's. And when it comes to Medicare and Medicare Advantage or Medicare Supplement, your choice, I'm always surprised at how people choose and what they choose to do and what they choose not to do. Prescription drug is Part D, and if you get the supplement, you've got to pick that up. So there's lots of things to do with Medicare. I've dealt with it for over 20 years. Okay. So I'm sitting here thinking, and I said this to a person in the office this week that came in to deal with Medicare, because we work with our clients on Medicare, and they came in to talk about Medicare. And I said, Jason, I said, Medicare is really simple. And he just sort of went, for you, and stuff, because it is.
It's an alphabet soup is what it is, right?
It is, but I know the alphabet. Okay. Yes. And once you know the alphabet, that's fine. And so that's one of the things that we do offer is Medicare coaching, and we do offer the opportunity to do that in the Part D. We also can talk about health savings accounts. Some of you have those available. There's all kind of medical accounts available, and you need to make sure you got the right coverage and the time to do it. It's like fixing the roof. When do you fix the roof? Before it starts to rain.
Exactly.
And getting the right medical coverage you need to do before you need the medical coverage. So call us, get on our calendar. We can help you.
And what I love too, Tom, is that you're able to help folks wade through the onslaught of information. You know, when you are turning 65, that marketing machine comes out. There's a lot of misleading information. There's a lot of pressure to enroll in this or enroll in that. If you want help figuring out what the right plan and course of action is for you, we invite you to call Mosley Wealth Management at 888-930-5609. And of course, this will be an important piece of your overall retirement blueprint. We'll be back with more right after this.
Which will you spend more money on in retirement, food or healthcare? Do you take your investments out of the stock market now that you're retired? How do you know if you've saved enough to stay retired? Will your Social Security check be reduced in the future? How do you produce income from your nest egg to fight costs like taxes and inflation? At Mosley Wealth Management, Tom Mosley and the team take the guessing out of retirement planning by devising a written plan that accounts for all of your concerns. The bigger question, are you going to be okay in retirement? Find out the answers to your retirement questions by calling Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management, 888-930-5609. Income, investments, Social Security, Medicare, longevity, health care. We cover these solutions and all of those other questions on your mind to answer, are you going to be okay in retirement? More Right on the Money with Tom Mosley right after this. Get your own no-cost retirement plan review at 888-930-5609.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley, and today Tom and I have been discussing all the accounts you need to have set up and organized properly for your retirement. And, you know, we were touching on Medicare during the last segment, and I was mentioning the marketing before we went to the commercial break. I've heard it said that folks become really, really sexy when you turn 64 and 7 months, 64, 8 months. You get even sexier at age 65. Why? Because you're going to be hit with all this marketing regarding Medicare. And oftentimes, you know, Tom, I know you've had a story you're going to share with our listeners, which I think is really powerful. People can feel pressured that they have to enroll in a certain plan when it might not necessarily be right for them.
Exactly. I mean, they push a lot for things to be able to be done by phone, and they think that they're regulating everything because you're required legally to record all of those phone calls. But I do know a lady who came into the office and said, I signed up for Medicare and didn't even know it.
Wow.
There was a very pushy person on the phone talking about a particular plan. And I guess I answered the questions the wrong way because I got my enrollment for that plan a couple of weeks later. So you don't need to feel pushed into anything. You don't need to get into anything you don't understand. You need somebody who's going to have you in mind rather than selling something in mind, and you in mind rather than a company in mind. And you need to have somebody who's going to make sure that your best interests are in their forefront, and you got all the plans in front of you and all of the plans explained to you so that you can make the best decision for you and know that you're making a decision when you're making a decision. Never do I like having somebody make a decision for me.
Right.
And this lady was quite offended by what had happened to her.
Yeah, I don't blame her one bit. Well, I'm glad she was able to get with you and the team and be able to hopefully rectify that. But yeah, you definitely want to make sure you're working with someone who is a fiduciary, who has that legal and ethical obligation to always serve your best interests, which is at the forefront of the team of Mosley Wealth Management. And, you know, Tom, real quickly, you also mentioned the seminars that you do throughout Southern California. That website, if you all want to go on and see when there might be a seminar that's convenient for you, is mosleywealthmanagement.com. Again, that's MOSLEY wealthmanagement.com. Well, one thing it's important to also point out about Medicare, Tom, is that it does not cover long-term care like assisted living costs, custodial care, things of that nature. That's a common misconception that a lot of people have.
Yeah, it is. And they think, well, if I go into a nursing home, Medicare will take care of me. If you go into a nursing home, Medicare doesn't care much for you because they're not going to take. And that's where the question and the problem of long-term care and how do we cover long-term care, board and care, assisted living, custodial care, all of those things are things that are outside the realm of Medicare. Now, don't drive off the road if you're listening to this in your car because that might be a shock to people. I know it's a shock to people, Kristin, because when they come into the office many times and we tell them, it's a shock to them because they think it's all
Mhm.
encompassing and all inclusive, but it is not.
Next up on the list here, Social Security accounts. This is huge.
Yeah, yeah, you really do. You know, I've said for years that 40% of the average American's income comes from Social Security, and the survey says, you know, the most recent survey said 41% of the average
Mhm.
American's income comes from Social Security. You need to know your Social Security account. You also need to know that there's some very nice people that work at the Social Security Administration, but when you go down there many times, they're not able to give you advice.
Well,
They're
they're
able
not
to give you
allowed. They can give
they're
you
not allowed.
information, but they are not allowed to give you advice. That's right.
A lady was in one of our seminars in Irvine. It was our retirement master class about 6 months ago. And when I was talking about this, and some of the people were like frowning and saying, well, I got some advice down there. And the lady raised her hand. She said, could I say something? And obviously she could. And she said, stood up and she said, I work at the Social Security Administration and we're coached not to give advice. And
Mhm.
we're coached just to answer questions because we don't want people to come back on us and hold us liable
Accountable.
for the
Yeah,
advice.
right.
Right.
Mhm.
So you've got to get that advice from somebody who else. And I am happy to say that every one of our advisors takes and passes a course with the National Social Security Administration, Advisors Administration, not the Social Security Administration, but it's an advisor administration where there's a 19 module course and you pass a proctored exam so that we know what we're talking about when we're trying to help you on social.
Mm.
You need to know what you're talking about when you're talking about social. In 2023, 66 million people were on Social Security in some form. So
Mhm.
there's 4 ages that are important. There's a lot of other things. I can't cover it right now. But when you're 62 is a big age. When you're 65 is a big age. When
Mhm.
you're somewhere between 66 to 67, that's full retirement age is a big age. 70 is a big age because that's when you maximize everything in social. You need to have some guidance on Social Security. Don't just wing it on that. There needs to be some help there.
Right. That's why there's no substitute for really sitting down in the financial planning environment and figuring out what the best course of action is for you and your spouse. If you're married, that's an important conversation for both of you to be having to figure out how you can really optimize your Social Security benefits. Well, moving on down the list, Tom, we've got pension plans, which, for a lot of folks, pensions are a thing of the past, but you also work with a lot of folks in Southern California that do still have one.
Yeah, employee retirement service or system, ERS. So out here we have OSERs, LACERs, STIRS, PERS, and I joke around MERS, FERS, and DERS, and
Right.
everything else, because that's
Yeah.
all the retirement plans that are there. And they're people they say, well, I went to hear the program that the person presented, through my HR department, and I still don't understand it. You need some help before you pick that pension plan. You
Mhm.
really do. And this is where you need to stick with me if you don't have a pension, because I'm going to tell you how you can get one. All right.
Mhm.
But if you've got a pension through a governmental organization, city, state government, schools, whatever, you have a different bird than you have if you have a pension through a regular company. So you need to really work with somebody who has a knowledge and an experience with working with different pensions. Like, do I take 100% for just me, or do I take
Mhm.
100% for me and my spouse, or
Yep.
or how do you take that? What's the gap
Mhm.
of taking it all for me and nothing for my spouse? You say, why would I do that? I have had some people we were able to, with the difference in that gap,
Mhm.
it was like $1,800 a month different. So we were able to buy a life insurance for $750,000 that would cover that spouse in case something happened to them in the next 30 years. And
Mm.
they were able to then have the $750,000 tax free so they could take the higher amount on their pension and actually still cover the surviving spouse. So there's
Wow.
all kind of ways to work with it. That's
Mhm.
called pension maximization. You maximize your pension, you buy a life insurance policy to cover the spouse, and you you accomplish actually more. But you've got to be thinking. You've got to have gone through that hole before to understand what's in that cave and how to get through it, if you understand. And so you need to work with that. Now, for those of you who are saying, man, I wish I had a pension.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are feeling that. Their ears perked when you said, hey, did you know you could create a personal pension? So let's talk about those accounts.
Well, right at the end of the show, I'm going to use a foul word for some of you, because what you're going to have to understand is most of those pensions are actually invested in an annuity in an insurance company, because a pension and an annuity give you a guaranteed flow of income for the rest of your life, even after the money that's been put away in that account is exhausted. As long as you're here, they're going to pay. That's the insurance aspect of the pension and the insurance aspect of an annuity. We use often with our clients fixed indexed annuities. You say, I don't like annuities. Okay. How would you like if we call it a 𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗏𝗏, and this 𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗏𝗏 will give you guaranteed increasing income for as long as you live. And then as long as your spouse survives you, as long as either one of you are on this earth, if there's still money in that annuity, in that 𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗏𝗏, I'm sorry, at the end of both of your lives, that goes to your kids. And it, even after you run out of money on this earth, one of you is still here. It pays you as long as you live. Wouldn't you want a 𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗏𝗏? Well, everybody would want a 𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗏𝗏𝗏. Well, let me tell you, a 𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗏𝗏𝗏 is an annuity, and it's a private pension that you have to do it yourself. But many times people take a $800,000 401k or a $1.2 million 401k, and they'll move over. This week, I moved over $250,000 out of a $1.2 million 401k, and it solved their income for life.
Wow.
Because you said earlier in the show, Kristin, in retirement, it's your income that's important, not so much your lump sum.
Right.
When you get to the end of a 401k, you're done. Wipe your hands, walk away. You've got zero money. But when you get to the end of the money that's in a fixed indexed annuity, it continues to pay you guaranteed income for life. There's no other product that will do that other than a pension, which is backed up by an annuity. So you say, I don't have a pension. Well, maybe you should buy one for yourself. This person this week took $250,000 of a $1.2 million portfolio in their 401k, and they bought themselves guaranteed income for life. Enough.
Wow.
And that left them, Kristin, a lump sum of $950,000 to go play with. Okay.
What a blessing.
We call the income side your paycheck. And we call the side that's left over, the $950,000 in this case, the play check.
Yeah.
You say, I wish I had a pension. I wish I had a plan. We can do that. Here's what happens. You call up and you sign up for an appointment with one of our all-star advisors, 5 locations all over Southern California. Bring all of the statements on your accounts. That's what this show's been about, all of your accounts. And we will, for free, build you, it's complimentary, build you a retirement blueprint. And at the end of that 2 meetings, 3 meetings, you can decide if you want to work with us or if you want to not work with us and do it on your own. But the whole thing starts when you call in.
Absolutely. And we've been talking today. We started off today's show stressing the importance of having a blueprint. This is where it all comes together. We know that you have questions. Maybe some of the things we've talked about today have really resonated with you. You're wondering how you can get all of your accounts set up correctly for yourself and organized. The team of Mosley Wealth Management would love to help and serve you. Again, that number to call to claim your complimentary retirement blueprint is 888-930-5609. Thanks so much for joining us this weekend. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to being back with you next time here on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley.
Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management Incorporated. Mosley Wealth Management and Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership license number OB61811. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refers to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength, claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This content is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the needs of an individual situation. All hypothetical examples are provided for illustrative purposes only. They do not represent real-life scenarios. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services, nor its agents or representatives may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any investment decisions. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Some of the information provided may be from one or more third parties, which we believe to be reliable sources, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Insurance and Financial Services.